Smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see what?
All right, and welcome to another edition of Graham's Gallery, brought to you by the Dave Dynasty Show. I am Dave Dynasty, and I am joined as always by the man of the hour, the most highly educated man in professional wrestling, Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. Doctor, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. How you doing there, young man?
I'm doing wonderful, and we're going to talk about a great topic, someone who I think is one of the most underappreciated talents in all of wrestling, and someone who I know is very close and very important to you in your life and career. We're going to talk about Bulldog Don Kent. And
you're absolutely correct. Bulldog Don Kent, one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time.
Absolutely, I agree. And we'll give a little background here. Don was born in Indiana in 1933. He went to college in Kansas, but a story that I think you first told me that I've heard, Jerry, is that there was some interest with him coming out of high school on getting signed by the Boston Red Sox. Did you tell me that story?
No, I told you that he had told me he went to Boston College. I
Okay.
never heard about the other university.
Well,
he told me he went to Boston College.
Yeah, I had heard. Yeah, I had heard there was some interest in the Boston Red Sox signing, but his dad didn't want him to. His dad wanted him to go to college. So yeah, then he ended up going to college. Oh, you're right. Yes, he did not go to college. He went to Boston College. That's right. And then, but then eventually he was trained by Larry Shane to make his debut. Jerry, do you have any stories really quickly on Larry Shane?
Well, let's get the record straight. He wasn't trained by Larry Shane. He was trained by Bert Ruby.
Oh, okay.
Bert Ruby, who also trained Larry Shane, and they were good friends.
Okay.
But make no mistake, Don Kent told me that Bert Ruby was the greatest teacher of them all. He was very fortunate to have him as an instructor. And Leaping Larry Shane was part of the Bert Ruby stable. That would be another subject for some night. Bert Ruby trained at the time, he trained Killer Kowalski. He trained the original Sheik.
Sure.
He trained George the Animal Steele. I mean, he has some really top-notch alumni at his school.
Yeah.
But that's where Don Kent trained with Bert Ruby.
Yeah, and of course Bert Ruby. Yeah, and of course Bert Ruby. I mean, obviously known for promoting, running shows in this area in the Midwest. And then Don went, kind of moved around, worked some of the territories like a lot of guys did. Got a lot of fame and a success in Arizona going through there. But then really kind of became known early on in around 67-ish when he joined Al Costello and the Fabulous Kangaroos. So, Jerry, what are your memories of the Fabulous Kangaroos and Al Costello and Don Kent as part of that team?
Well, I'm not sure when they first teamed up because in 1967 I was still in the Army.
Okay.
But, when I came out of the Army, and I first started going back to the wrestling matches again, it was Don Kent and Al Costello, the Fabulous Kangaroos, no question. I just can't confirm the date at first. You're probably correct. I'm just saying I can't confirm it.
Right.
I never asked that. I do know that Costello had come over from Australia with Roy Heffernan, and Roy Heffernan was a really great wrestler, but according to Costello, he told me that Roy just got homesick and went home. Yep. And he needed a new partner, and Don Kent filled the bill. Yeah,
and of course they achieved a lot of fame all over and everything else, and really hit their mark a lot here in the Midwest. Wrestled a lot in Detroit, and then when they kind of went their separate ways, Kent worked some in Tennessee, but he ended up coming back to Detroit, back to the Midwest, and he really kind of became a big single star here. And he worked some in Puerto Rico. He worked for Bruiser. He was kind of all over the area. When do you remember first meeting Don Kent?
I first met Don Kent. I hadn't had my first match yet, but I was coming up to Detroit with Martino Angelo to get to know everybody, and it was at the Olympia Stadium, just in the dressing room. Don Kent and I started talking, and we kind of hit it off together. Who would have thought? I hadn't had my first match yet. I mean, who thought we'd end up partners? But I mean, I really found him to be real personable. He was a real, genuinely nice guy. I think that was one of his assets and get him through the promotions. They know he was an easy guy to get along with. Some of these guys, were prima donnas and hard to deal with, but Don Kent was always a positive force in any promotion he was with, psychologically as well as with his talent in the ring, of course.
Yeah, and when you were young and you were working there for Sheik, working a lot on the underneath card, did you ever work Don Kent up there and on TV or anything? Or
many times I worked with Don Kent, and every time I came away a little bit better wrestler because, like a lot of guys, they take a young guy and they just eat him up. But Don Kent would see that I had something, and I mean, or he had me doing all different kinds of. And the first time he was on the apron of the ring, he had me throw flying hits and bring him into the ring and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that got me started with all that, and we had some great matches. I learned just by emulating him.
Yeah.
We wrestled on TV. We wrestled a lot of the house shows. And one time Kent told me, because I noticed that when I was first starting, they had the TV matches where they needed a lot of what they refer to as job guys.
Sure.
All the stars, quote unquote, or many of them, I won't say all, wanted to work with me while they were there. And Kent told me, do you know why that is? Because it's a great wrestler. He said, well, no, it's not because you're a great wrestler. He says, you got talent, you're coming up, but they want to work with you because you're safe.
Right.
Not going to get caught with an elbow or have you try something that you can't do and kill everybody. And you're very safe. You stay with the things that you can do. And when they come to do TV and stuff, we're going to have a match with underneath to get them over. They wanted to work with you because you are safe. And I took that as a compliment. Even early on, I knew not to hurt people, and I could still wrestle a good match.
Yeah, and obviously you went on and you moved on and started working for Bruiser, and you started coming into your own. At what point were you there first before then Don kind of come down was making shots with Bruiser? Were you already kind of established for Bruiser, or was it kind of was Kent already working some too?
The Kangaroos had been in for Bruiser before me.
Right. Okay.
George Costello and Kent. When I brought Kent in when he came with me, I was partners with Golden Boy Paul Christie, who here's not doing very well. I talked to his wife via message last night.
Yeah.
But Don Kent, I brought him in, and he teamed us up, and I think we surprised Bruiser. I don't know if Bruiser really thought we were going to get over like we did. He seemed a little discouraged. He was pushing the Hog Brothers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Then we had a fight out with the Hog Brothers, so I guess you were kind of going to have to take over. So we were like a second string tag team at first, believe it or not. That's how underrated we both were.
Yeah.
And then when he put it on top, we started drawing money. We started going over it. Plus, I opened up Ohio and Michigan for Bruiser. We've covered that in other shows.
Yep.
But I'm saying that Don Kent, when I say I brought him in, I suggested for Bruiser, but Don Kent was the head of our team. I'm not going to come on like I'm some kind of a big shot. When I was with Don Kent, this is my instructions, because he knew I was a good talker. He knew I was a good elocutionist, loquacious, boisterous, and emasculating person. So what he said is, Jerry, when you're doing the microphones and stuff, and we're doing the promos, you're the boss. When we get into the ring and the match starts, I'm the boss.
That's right.
I said, that works for me. Don Kent was an expert at tag team psychology, of which I learned from him.
Yep.
And we got to the point where we could just look at each other in the eye and know what the other one wanted.
Yeah.
And that happens. Any guy that's been in tag teams for a long time will tell you that they develop that with their partner. That you've got certain things that you do, and a lot of them take two of you to do it because you're in a tag team. You do a lot of 2-on-1 stuff and sort of. And Kent would just look at me a certain way, and I know what he wanted. That's how long we were together. And but he was. Now, I'd like to say something about Kent. I'd like to get this in because I was thinking about this earlier. For guys that have never wrestled, they might not quite know what I'm talking about. But there's something about a few wrestlers. I can name a few. I don't want anybody to think, but everybody else, I'm going to say it's called. These guys are what they call smooth. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I can describe it. They come in. They're solid. They're smooth. They're not flimsy. I mean, they're nice and snug, and they do things well, but they just have the right touch. And if anybody's worked, especially with guys like that, I know what I'm talking about. Don Kent was like that. Ivan Koloff was like that. Mm-hmm. I worked with him several times. He was just so smooth. Dory Funk Jr. was like that, as was Terry. Just something I can't describe it. But when I say smooth, it might not be the right word because smooth sounds like it's soft and cuddly, and they weren't soft and cuddly.
Yeah.
But they just felt confident in the ring with them. They just knew what to do. I mean, they just absolutely. And I had the privilege of working on Don Kent was in that category.
Yeah.
And I can name a lot of other guys that way too, but most of them know. And today I don't know of anybody that I haven't wrestled a long time. I watch. I don't know if anybody. has it anymore. Not some of the veterans like Sean Casey probably. Like, I never worked with Sean, but the younger guys today have got a whole different outlook on the business, and it's not smooth.
Yeah. Well, you talked about when you and Don teamed, that obviously you were the mouthpiece and you led the team in that, and he led the team in the ring. Do you think it's part of what made you guys click so quick, that you guys understood your roles as the team and you just meshed so well together because you complemented?
Yeah, because when a lot of guys, in those days, there was a lot of pros. A lot of guys were about to say, today, not so much. When you get into the ring, your job is to sell the match.
Sure. Not
yourself. And so many guys, I don't want to use a bad word, so I'm going to do a good word. When so many guys say, I want to get my stuff in, I know they haven't got a clue to what the match is all about.
All right. Yep.
Bobo Brazil, same thing. He said, you got to think about what's it going to take to get this match over. It takes 2 to tango or 4 to tango. And Don Kent and I, the other tag teams, love to work with us. And I like to think I became smooth like Don Kent, at least in that direction. Maybe he was really, really, really good. But they seemed to like to work with us, and we always seemed to have good matches. I look back, and I try to be neutral in what's my matches. And I've seen some matches that maybe not as good, but the ones with Kent, most of, I'd say 90% of them, I think were excellent. And it's because we worked together. Everything we did was to get the match over.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anything else, but we wanted to make sure the match was entertaining.
Yeah.
And
well, and one thing you guys kind of became known for this time is I always loved the way Don Kent and you would react when the fans would start barking at Don. And that
was a despicable activity. Barking. Who wants to treat a man like he's a dog? He's not a dog. He's a man. Just because he wore a dog collar, there's no reason to call him a dog. And he'd get upset, so I had to cover his ears sometimes and try to calm him down, because whenever the people started barking, they would upset him and throw off his timing. So I was very, very, very horrible thing for the fans to do to a gentleman like Bulldog Don Kent.
Yeah. And also during this time, you guys had a really unbelievable feud that ran for a long time against Chris Carter and Calypso Jim. So what are some of your memories of working with that team? And you guys traded the tag title several times and had some really epic matches there.
Well, I heard your show with Chris Carter a while back. You had Chris Carter on.
Yeah.
And what a bright young man he is. When he referred to me as a genius.
Sure did.
Exactly. This shows he knows what he's talking about, because I am a genius.
That's right.
I say that modestly. You're talking about that. You got to understand the entire history, which I'm going to put in a nutshell. I don't want to start bloviating. Calypso Jim was an undiscovered wrestler called Disco Dog.
Mm-hmm.
And like I used to do with many others, I'm not talking down, because I used to do the same thing. I would come to matches with my bag packed in case somebody didn't show up.
Sure. In
case they needed a substitute to get a match. That's how it was. And here was Disco Dog, a.k.a. Calypso Jim. And then one day in Hamlin, Indiana, somebody didn't show up, so they put him with me. And I got in the ring with him, and this guy was good.
Yep.
And I told Bruiser, I said, listen, you're the boss, but just if you want some input, this is before I became partners with him. I was just working. I said, this guy is a really good hand. And the next thing I know, he's Calypso Jim, and he's using Jamaican crab to win his matches. So that's one part of the team. The other part was Chris Carter. He was trained by Al Costello to a point. And Al Costello was a little old-fashioned. I'm not going to say anything bad about the dad, but I'm just talking about the theories. He thought there should be a lot more wrestling holds, maneuvers, what have you, and he kind of looked down on the meat chopping, and it really drew the money. So when Chris Carter started working for me, I told him, I says, Chris, it's good. Everything Al showed you was good, but if we're going to start making some money, you're going to have to modify your style to my way of doing things. And he did. He was very, he got what we wanted, and he got right with the program. And one time, maybe Costello had a talk with me, what I don't know. I don't know, I'm just guessing. He said, don't you think we should have a bit more wrestling in our matches? It's okay, Chris, I'm going to fight now. Of all the matches you've seen, what was the best match you've ever seen? It entertained you the most. And he says, Mark Lewin versus King Curtis. I said, how many double wrist locks did you see in that match? How many drop toe holds did you see? How many what you saw was two guys breaking tables, chairs, smashing each other, blood all over the place, and that's what draws money. But I also told, don't get me wrong, you can't do that every match. That's all what these guys are doing now. You got to have your mechanics, which are guys that can really work the holds, the high spots, and do it like Costello suggested, put some wrestling into the thing. But when you're up in the money, I'll give you an example. I was sitting ringside. I went down to Miami Beach on vacation. At that time, Angelo Dundee's brother, Chris Dundee, was the promoter. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to introduce myself to him, and he sat me fourth row ringside. Now, the whole card was filled with top-notch talent. And the first of the two main events was Harley Race against Mike Graham. And once again, that was a really good mechanic match. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs and stuff. But what was the main event? Dusty Rhodes and the Assassin versus Ox Bacon and Superstar Graham. And the main event's what draws the money. Next thing you know, they had chairs, garbage cans. But they led up to it, So that's what I was trying to tell Chris. There's a place for everything in wrestling. But the guys that draw the money are the guys in the main event that do all the crazy stuff. And I remember Randy Savage and I started the business together, rest his soul. The Sheik told us not to fight outside of the ring, don't use any optics. Everything the Sheik did, he told us not to do. So Randy and me were so new, we said, who's he? He doesn't. Why can't we do it? But the Sheik was right. Mm-hmm. If everybody was doing that, it wouldn't mean a thing when the Sheik came in the ring and started doing it.
Right.
So he needed, and Randy and I had pretty good matches together underneath it. They had us married. This is early on, and he wanted much bigger things. But at the time, he was doing opening matches all over his territory. People really loved him. But we were doing what I was talking about. We were mechanics then. Mm-hmm. We were doing high spots. We were doing holds. And we were giving people really good matches. But the money matches come in the main event. And for people, you want them to enjoy the whole show. But you got to end with a big bang. And so Don Kent and I could do either. Yeah. If you needed Don Kent, we were in the middle of the card. He could give you all the mechanics you wanted. I could too, but Kent more. Mm-hmm. Kent more. And but when we were the main events, what we would do is we would mix it up. We would do some spots and lead into a brawl. And that's not a thing a lot of teams do either. They either start one way or the other. We would start with the mechanics, and then as we would get frustrated by not being able to be successful, we would resort to dirty tactics. Mm-hmm. And that's to me the ultimate in wrestling, be it tag team or single. When instead of a guy just comes to the ring and starts kicking the bottom ropes and using dirty language to the fans, which I'm totally against, any profanity in the matches where they say yelling and screaming, get the match started, get both guys wrestling, and then when the one guy is not doing so well, then he starts breaking rules. So he's telling the people his reason to break the rules because this guy's a better wrestler than me, but I still want to win this match, so if I have to take shortcuts, I will. And that's the kind of stuff you do in the middle of the card match. By the main event match I was talking about, they've already been pushed over on TV and had 4 or 5 angles leading up to it. But and when Kent and me got with Chris Carter and Calypso Jim, we had started like I said, but then we ended up with total brawls.
Yeah.
Total brawls because, but you got to tell the story to the people. And then I see two guys who come out, they've never seen each other before, and they start with all this crazy stuff, and the fans are sitting there quiet because if they watch their TV show, they got to know why things are happening.
Yeah.
And once again, someday we can do a whole thing on ring psychology, but Don Kent's our subject tonight.
Yeah.
And Don Kent was one of the best ring psychologists there was.
Yeah.
He was like a big brother to me. He really took me under his wing, and we got along just fine.
Yeah. And there was a brief period where you and Chris Carter kind of traded places almost, and you had the fans behind you, and you were teaming quite a bit with a young Scott Steiner, and Carter was teaming with Kent, and you guys, again, you were trading the tag titles around. What do you remember about this time when you weren't teaming with Kent and Carter was teaming with Kent?
Well, this is kind of funny because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kent left the territory. We had to do something, so we teamed I think we went to Puerto Rico or someplace. I'm not sure. We're going back 25, 30 years, but
right.
I didn't see now, I think. But they called Carter and I teamed up. Carter double-crossed Calypso Jim. I gave him some money.
Yep.
And so anyway, so Carter and me were partners, and then fate takes a hand. I was a horrible car accident, and a lot of people thought this was not real, but it was.
Yeah.
My arm broke, my leg broke. I was a mess. So Carter comes up to the hospital to see me and to do promos. And he says to me, he feels real bad. He says, Chris, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the station and do a promo and say that you're totally disappointed that Dr. Graham isn't as tough as I thought he was. He gets a little car accident, breaks his leg. He's laid up in the hospital like a little baby crying. He said, I broke my leg once in Toledo, and I walked all the way back to Detroit just to get the kinks out. And he got the camera crew mad at him. He got everybody. Yeah, that's what he didn't want to do it because he thought it'd be too much, but it was just right, like the Three Bears. It was not too hot, and they hated him. And we did a whole thing where he was, tipping my wheelchair over. One thing that came on TV, he put some dark glasses on me, gave me a tin cup and pencils, and pushed the wheelchair off the set. And he was, as I started getting better, he started beating me up, knocking me off my crutches. Then the big finale is when he ripped the cast off my leg and beat me to a pulp with that. And this is what angles have to do. So finally, they cleared me to wrestle after the bloodbath with the cast. And we set, it's been broken since then, but we set an attendance record by dollars and cents, not by head count, because in the old days it was $1 for ringside, 50 cents. And they used to get 6,000 or 7,000 people at the sports arena, but you only have a $3,000 gate.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that. But what we did have at the Sofitel was a $15,000 gate, which at that time was the biggest amount of money paid for one wrestling match in Toledo ever.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, about a month later, Hulk Hogan came to Toledo and did $95,000, so it was short-lived.
Yeah.
But, another time we had 10,000 people out at the ballpark. That's some of that you can see on YouTube if you can find it. It's part of the bigger show,
Uh-huh.
But it was 10,000 people, but that was cheating because Cablevision underwrote the show and it was free tickets.
Yeah.
So when you get free tickets, you can get 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So, but I was kind of proud of the fact we did $15,000, which never. Buddy Rogers used to draw 6,000 people, 5,000 people, but it only be like you said, $4,000 or $5,000 gates, which in the 50s was a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But we did 15,000 for Carter and me. Coming back. That's when Steiner and I got together, and Wojo and that. And then Kent came back, and then came the Steiner and I against Kent and Carter.
Yeah.
We bounced the belt back. Steiner, he was a real natural talent. As I understand it, he owns Shoney's.
Mm-hmm.
Big boy chain in Atlanta. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. That's what I heard. Yeah. He sure does.
Yeah. he's doing real well. What I heard about Scott was he was no big shot investor, but he just saved his money.
Yep.
Just like in bank accounts and stuff. And of course, that's okay. It's better than making dumb investments. But if I had a lot of money, I would invest in Canter Path Investments, which is in near the Orlando, Florida area, and you would double your money and triple your money and do really good with your investments.
Yeah.
But I guess Scott did it his own way.
Yeah.
At least he didn't lose it.
That's right.
A lot of guys lose their money and after making a lot of it. And that's happened too much in the business.
Yep, sure has.
But you get a good investment. If you make that kind of money, you get a good investment company to take care of your money, and you have a real comfortable old age.
That's right.
If you live that long.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about Kent here towards the end of his career. That he wrestled quite a bit in Puerto Rico, and I think he was booking down there some even. And when he was down there on those stages and stuff, were you staying in touch with him still and talking to him and everything even while he was away?
No, not really. I'll tell you, that hurt my feelings a little bit because after Bruiser Brody was murdered in Puerto Rico, a lot of the guys didn't want to go down there.
Right.
So they hired Kent as a booker, and Kent never asked me to go down there. So I guess there was a part of me that he didn't think when he got back, I mentioned this to him. Oh, you didn't tell me you wanted to go to Puerto Rico. And I think, well, geez, you're the booklet, I'm your partner. So that was a little time I kind of just, but he didn't, obviously didn't want me down there. But he did want Wojo down there. And when they got Wojo down to Puerto Rico, Kent was so frustrated because Carlos Cohn and them did everything they could to make Wojo look bad.
Oh, yeah.
They give him guys that couldn't work. They give him a guy half the size, say half-hour Broadway. I mean, that's not what the Wojo was all about. Wojo was about me being a big mouth, picking guys in 5 minutes or less, in challenge matches, and that would have gone real well in Puerto Rico, I would have imagined. But they didn't do right by Wojo, so maybe Kent couldn't get the right deal for me either. But he could have told me that. I guess I'm making excuses for him, I guess. But if they didn't want us to tag team or something. But other than that, though, Kent came back. He always had a spot in my promotion. Always. And I always took care of him financially too.
Yeah.
Always made sure he's taken care of. But the thing is that the point I was trying to make is that Kent was my friend and mentor, big brother I never had. And I got Calypso and Carter both into the business. So I got 4 guys together that were there to get the match over. They all had the same outlook.
Sure.
And Carter and Calypso and Kent and I, in no time was anybody thinking about wanting to get our stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to get the match over.
Yep.
And this is where Chris Carter, I want to say something good about him. He was underrated because nobody appreciates this talent. But to make a tag match go, you've got to have somebody that's a salesman. A babyface that can sell and try to milk the tag. And these guys today they can't do it.
Yep.
I try to teach them. I try to walk them through it. I'll be at ringside even managing them, and they can't do it.
Right.
And I get so frustrated because when I told Carter and Jim what to do, they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to go through any long-winded thing. And Carter, I will make this right now, he's all-around good worker, don't get me wrong, but he was as good a salesman as anybody I've seen in this business.
Yep.
He knew how to milk the crowd. He knew how to get the heat up because make that hot. A hot tag doesn't mean nothing unless it's hot.
Yep.
The guy he took that tag as a salesman, and that's one reason Jim was the comeback man and Carter was a salesman. But they did it together because that's what made the match.
Sure.
And Kent and I were supposed to keep them from getting the tag, and everything was about getting the match over.
Yep.
And Wojo the same way with Steiner. You look at that, it's on the internet, I'm sure you've seen it, the Wojo Steiner, the second match.
Mm-hmm.
The one at the Silvertown. You see that? You must have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
That was a great match.
Sure.
I mean, that match could have gone anywhere in the world and been a main event. That could have been with WWE. It could have been with now defunct WCW.
Mm-hmm.
That was one great match, and I was proud I trained both those guys.
Yep.
So I haven't trained as many guys as a lot. I've never run a school or anything. But the guys I've trained, most of them have done well. Scott Steiner, Wojo. Carter, I was his advanced teacher. Same with Bobo. Same with Calypso.
Yeah.
I taught them psychology. They always learned how to wrestle. Taught psychologists that are kind of like half students of mine. And Andy Shane, who is my latest student. I haven't trained anybody since then because it used to be when I was young in the business, and some old timer kept me and said, "Jerry, I was watching your match. It was pretty good, but if you did it this way instead of that way, it might be better." If somebody took the time to tell me that, I'd be grateful. And Don Kent was one of those guys that come to me and say, "Jerry, I noticed the way you did that tackle off the ropes or something, anything, if you did this, put a little bit or this way, hold your shoulder that way, anything." Now, I saw a guy that I thought had a lot of potential. He was a big, burly guy, and but he just wasn't quite aggressive enough. He had big shots, and when he did look good, but he just stand there and smile when he gets the guy down.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him aside, which I wouldn't have done this if I didn't think there was some potential. I said, what I'd like you to start doing is be more aggressive. And get on these guys, stay on these guys, so it's comeback time, Just keep on these guys. Because you're a big guy, you're well over 300 pounds. I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But
sure.
It was, so he didn't want to say anything to me, but he goes up to Andy and uses all kinds of foul language about me. Since he thinks I don't know how to work, and I'm quitting. And he left. I just thought I wanted to be more aggressive. This guy was working main events for us, too.
Man.
Wasn't some guy that was... So this is what you get today with these kids, and there's nobody to set them straight.
That's right.
I would do it for nothing. I mean, if I liked the guy.
Yeah.
There's two other guys I know. Once again, I'm not mentioning names very few because they're still active. Fantastic aerial men. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They came to me once. They were working against each other. Mechanically speaking, they said to me, Jerry, why isn't the crowd responding to what we're doing? And I couldn't tell them in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's a lost art, ring psychology.
Yep.
It really is.
It sure is.
I see sometimes, and I haven't watched much WWE lately because I'm hearing they're not too good at matches anymore. I don't know what you think. I haven't watched them. I don't know.
Yeah.
They used to be.
Yeah, I don't really watch much either. I can't. It's too much to sit through. It's first of all, their shows are like 3 hours long, and it's just all talk, and I don't want to see a bunch of talk. The talk doesn't go anywhere. I don't really watch a whole lot.
Everybody talked about my interviews, and they were complimentary to me how great I was. I'm not bragging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the longest interview I ever did was 4 minutes.
Yeah,
and 90% of my interviews were 2 minutes.
Yep.
I could get it in. Because people want to see the wrestling, want to see the action. I mean, you need interviews to get things built up, but like you said, they just talk and talk and talk. But they must be doing something like this. They're making a ton of money, so I'm not. I'm just saying,
it's not. Not down their success, but it's just not my style. It's not my flavor.
Yeah.
But so,
and another thing I tried to do, which these dullards didn't understand, is try to get a little group together. I approached some of the smaller groups around the area when I'm retired now, and trying to get a group just to recognize like one champion. Everybody had their own promotion.
Sure.
But I was telling them, the deal I made several people. One guy went for it and then double-crossed us. I says, you come in with our wrestling promotion, and your town will be 50-50 partners with you. But we'll push you on the television, and if you got a few guys, and most guys are throwing small shows because they want to be stars. And this one particular guy was a pretty good wrestler. So he says, he says, okay, Jerry, I'll take the deal. I got 2 towns. I'll make those your promotion. And so we made him. He was our champion, and I kept our word to him. He and I and Norm Weimer sat at a table and we shook hands, which is all you can do in wrestling. There's no contracts, Yep. So what this guy did was, after us doing everything we were doing, promised to do, put him as a champion, make him a star, he starts running more shows. He says, wait a minute. One of us says, what are you talking about? He says, we sat right there and said, the shows you're going to run are going to be in partnership with us, in sync with the television. And then have 5 or 6 promotions in the 100-mile radius. The Channel 24 goes a long way, and be partners. And they quit. They all go their own way. They don't want to. As I said, geez, study history. I think the NWA got started.
Yep.
A bunch of small promotions getting together, and you can't do everything at once. Maybe these guys would span out and get their own TVs and stuff eventually. But the thing is, recognize one champion, recognize one tag team champion. Back in the Bruiser Bevan days, I tried that. Would you like to hear all the guys that turned me down and had promotions? Mike Anthony, Al Costello, Ricky Cortez, Jim Lancaster. All these guys had towns, buildings, deals put together in the TV radius of Bruiser Bedlam, and I gave them any kind of deal they wanted. I said, we'll go 50-50 with you, 75-25. If you don't want to invest, we'll want a town to give you 10% of the gross and give you main event money for wrestling on the show. I mean, anything it takes to get, we can get anybody to go along. And that's exactly what the secret to wrestling is you want towns, you want power, you want guys sticking together. And, my God, you can't even, you can't talk to these guys.
Yep, that's right.
But Don Kent and I, we worked the proper way. We worked with other promotions. We worked for Bruiser, and we worked for George Cannon. But everything was synchronized and coordinated. Finally, we had George Cannon coming down doing commentary for Bruiser for a while.
Yep, right. That's right.
We were trying to put something together from Canada down to Indianapolis to Detroit, and that had some because Canada understood what we were trying to do, and Bruiser understood what we were trying to do. But for some reason, people start arguing, and everybody wants to has different ideas, and we don't get their way, they walk off the set.
Yep.
So, well, let's quit. And I've seen a lot of that. But what are you going to do?
That's right.
Get back to Don Kent.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're kind of winding down here. But one thing I did want to talk the side of Don Kent that a lot of people obviously didn't see on TV is, he was very much to me a family man. I've talked to some of his daughters and things, and he's was very dedicated to his family. I heard it. I think he coached some football in Michigan where he was active in his church and his community, and fans don't see that side of Don or you or any of you guys. Sometimes all they see is what's on TV. Tell us a little bit about Don away from.
That's what they're supposed to see. Yes, Don Kent
was
an active Roman Catholic. He coached football at the Catholic high school in his town of Battle Creek, Michigan. He had a wonderful wife. He had. You said daughters plural. I thought he had one daughter and one son, but
you're right. No, you're right. You're right. He did it. He has a daughter and a son. You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're wonderful people. His wife was such a nice lady, and he was a family man. But to be fair, we didn't show that to the people.
Sure, of course, right? Yeah, but I just I think it's nice, especially now, that he's passed away. That people see that that side of Don Kent a little bit. How good he was in the ring, but also he was just as good, of a man outside the ring. And again, he passed away in '93. Do you remember when you received the news?
On my birthday.
Right. Your birthday.
June 7th.
Yeah. Do you remember how you received the news and when you received the news and when you heard it?
I was watching the George Foreman, Tommy Morrison fight on pay-per-view. I bought the fight on TV, and the phone rang in the middle of the fight. It's Joe. His real name is Joe Smith.
Sure.
Don Kent's son. He said, "I just called to tell you that my dad passed away," and I told him how sorry I was, and what are you gonna do? I said, "He's like a brother to me." I wasn't able to make the funeral, but I sent a big floral arrangement since the older brother I never had.
Yeah,
and that's what I used to call him.
Yeah,
and he really was one of the nicest guys I ever met in wrestling. And believe me, I've always said this: I met some of the nicest guys and some of the biggest jerks in the wrestling business. A whole compliment of everybody, the kind of person you want.
Yeah.
So,
and as we said earlier, I view him as one of the most underappreciated guys in the business. He was so talented, so good. If you right now, for everybody listening, if you could describe Don Kent from your perspective and just summarize him, how would you say it? What would you say to the listeners?
I would say he was a well-trained, well-schooled wrestler. He knew the business. He knew the psychology of the business. He could be a babyface. He could be a heel. He could tell you what to do. If you had trouble with a match, he'd help you out in another match with a finish, with an idea. He was a really top-notch wrestling man. He was the real deal, a full-fledged wrestler who could do anything. And I admire him, and I still think about him all these years later.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say hello to the president of my fan club, Joyce Kennedy, in Orlando, Florida. I'm sure she'll be listening to your podcast.
Very good. Yeah. All right. Well, Jerry, thanks for joining us and talking about Don again. I knew, like I said, I've always been a huge Don Kent fan, and I know how important he was to you, personally and professionally. So thank you for coming on and sharing some stories. And we'll do another episode here in the near future and figure out where we're going from there. So anything you want to say, parting words for the listeners before we go?
No, just thanks a lot for listening to Dave Dynasty. He's got the best podcast in the business, and I'm always honored to be on it, and he's always honored to have me on it. So it's a pleasure.
Every time I am. Thank you for that, Jerry. You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes, and now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful long and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase. All right, and as always, thank you to Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. for joining us for another edition of Graham's Gallery. We discussed Bulldog Don Kent today. You can find us on Facebook if you look up Graham's Gallery. We have a page there. Make sure you like that. We share lots of pictures and things on there. And you can also find us on Twitter at Dr. Graham Jr. That is Dr. spelled out D-O-C-T-O-R, Graham Jr. And you can also email us if you ever want to get a hold of us. It is Dr. Graham Jr. Again, that is Dr. spelled out D-O-C-T-O-R, Graham Jr. at DaveDynasty.com. Make sure you visit us on Pro Wrestling Tees, and you can find the official Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. shirt there. It's a very, very cool shirt. Make sure you buy one of those. Help support the show. You can also, if you go to DaveDynasty.com, click on the merchandise link. There is a link there where you can purchase Dr. Jerry Graham Jr.'s audiobook. I highly advise that. Lots of great content and Jerry telling stories. It is very, very, very good listening. So make sure you purchase that. Now, before we get out of here, we're going to end today by bringing you some classic Graham's Gallery auto from the Bruiser Bedlam show. This is from 1986. And, of course, the guest on this edition of Graham's Gallery Classic with Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., is Bulldog Don Kent. So we are going to end the show with that classic audio from 1986.
Gives me great pleasure today on Graham's Gallery to introduce a man who, to me, is more than a man. He's a legend, one of the premier wrestlers in the world today. And although I've taken a vow, we started this series to remain neutral, and I will remain neutral, but I can't help getting enthused about Bulldog Don Kent. Bulldog Don Kent and I currently share the WWA World Tag Team Championships. And I couldn't be prouder, Bulldog, than to have you on my segment. And I know the fans out there have got to be really thrilled to see the Bulldog. Bulldog, one question I want to ask right off the bat now. I notice when you come out to the ring, a lot of times these fans start barking.
I'll tell you one thing, Jerry, that it breaks my concentration. I'm disgusted. I get mad. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm not an animal. I am not something that you're going to take and cage up and you put into a dog house and put out in the backyard because, hey, I'm human. I'm more human probably than them people sitting out there watching right now.
You're certainly more human than Dick the Bruiser. Did you ever see that Neanderthalic, semi-retarded...
oh, yes, I noticed that.
This Bruiser, the man walks down the street, the only decision he has to make every morning when he gets out of bed is how much saliva should I drool over my chin today?
Right. Now, I agree with you.
Now, you take a look at me. Now, I'm not one to brag, but you look behind me, what do you see? My college degrees, my PhDs, my master's degrees, my bachelor's degrees. I have 4 PhDs, 8 master's degrees, 16 bachelor's degrees, and 19 associate's degrees from very many universities around the country and around the world. I think, Bulldog, you'll agree with me. It's safe to say I have truly quenched my thirst for knowledge at some of the finest fountains
Doctor,
available.
If I may break in, I have, the most educated wrestler today or ever in our profession is the great doctor right here. And, Doc, I'll tell you, it's proud for me to be tag team champion with a gentleman like you.
Do you think there's anyone that can beat us? Are we going to keep these belts till we retire? Or is somebody way down the road? Certainly couldn't be anybody like Fred Curry or Chris Carter or Dick the Loser or Yukon Moose Sholak. He must be tired of being slammed by me as many times I've slammed him before. Who's capable of taking these belts?
Doc, I sit back and I look at all these names that keep lining up, the teams that keep wanting to come in and take us on. And, I love a good fight. I love for someone to come down and beat on me because that really drives me. That turns me on.
The more they beat you, the better you like it.
I love it.
That's why we're such a well-balanced team. Let's face it. I come from a family of multimillionaires. I've gone to the best universities. I'm educated. I know scientific wrestling inside out. But you, Don Kent, didn't have it so easy. You're a street fighter, an alley fighter. And you take a scientific, educated man like myself, you team him up with a bulldog, a back alley street fighter like Kent, and what you have is the immovable force, Don Kent, and the irresistible object, Dr. Graham. Together, teamed up, I think we're going to keep these belts as long as we want them. That's my instincts.
I'll tell you what, Doc, I've looked at it, and I don't see anyone. I have yet to see anyone yet that can come up here and give us a good fight because, Doctor, with all your knowledge, and you thirst all over this world, And me, I love a good fight. I love for you to come on out. Come on out and give me a fight, because that is what it's all about. I like for you to beat on me. I like for you to pound on me, because that really turns me on, because this is when I would like to give it to you.
Bulldog Kent, I'm sure the fans were pleased and honored, as I was, to have you as my guest here today on Graham's Gallery, and I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of cards and letters in requesting you be back many, many times, and of course, you will be. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and it's an honor for me to be here.
Smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see? Boss!